So one of the things you wouldn't expect is that with the puppet Waddle Dee, if you take the camera inside of this monstrosity, you can see that the Waddle Dees that are inside are not actually fully modeled due to the fact that the game knows you're not going to see these Waddle Dees on the inside. They just decided not to model the top of their heads to save on resources, despite the fact that there are ways to get them out of that Waddle Dee. Truth be told, there are actually different Waddle Dees than the ones that are inside this puppet. And so that, combined with many other things that we found today, we're going to be looking at Kirby's Return to Dreamland on Nintendo Wii in an ongoing series where we basically take the camera anywhere we want to try to find secrets and new discoveries to some of our favorite games. And after over 300 similar videos, we are finally covering Kirby's Return to Dreamland, which is the first Kirby game we've ever covered on the show. So let's strap in and take a look at what we found. I love what they did with the Wispy Woods here. So if you take the camera and loop it around, you can see that the face is angled in such a way that if you were to look at it straight ahead, it actually kind of skews over to the right to give it a better image to the players that are just looking at it from the side. Another really cool fun fact about Wispy Woods is that if you took the camera inside of it, you can see that its cheeks that enlarge when it's blowing air is actually stored inside of Wispy Woods at any given time. And so when it's being stored, you can see that they sort of intersect with each other and make a whole sphere like this. All right, gonna answer the most important question, of course, is how big is Barb Bar? Barb Bar is, of course, this eel thing that everybody knows by name, obviously. And Barb Bar actually doesn't go that far outside the boundaries. There's not a fully modeled Barb Bar inside of the wall. And of course, the size of Barb Bar depends on what size Barb Bar they use in the game. But the length of Barb Bar remains the same. And check it out, here's some dead Waddle Dees. No, I guess they're called Wapods, and they come out of Wapod pods. Pick the camera over on its side, we'll show you that the Wapods actually have some alpha channels going on. What's really weird though is that on the back, the Wapods have a back. I guess this helps with the white softened outline that goes around the Wapods. Still, I'm a little surprised they went with 3D, and I'm surprised that it even looks like this on its side. It's a neat little trick. Now I want to show you what happens when an enemy respawns. So normally that happens out of bounds, but if we take the camera and move it over to the side here, we can see this Waddle Dee re-emerging into the existence of life. Now it's a little hard to catch this because it all happens so fast, but for the first few frames, the Waddle Dee actually is looking down. It's almost like it's ducking, like Kirby would duck, and then it just sort of springs back into a standing position. Now let's talk about today's sponsor, Summoner's War. Summoner's War is a mobile turn-based RPG. In fact, it's actually one of the most popular in the entire world. For 11 years, with over 240 million downloads worldwide, Summoner War allows you to summon and collect over 1,000 monsters, each with their own unique abilities and strengths. Build and customize your own team of monsters to suit your playstyle and strategy. This game is regularly updated with in-game events to keep the gameplay fresh and exciting for both new and experienced players. And if you want to just give it a try with no cost to you, the game is free to play with plenty of events and in-game content rewards to keep you F2P. And right now, players can receive up to 200 free 11th anniversary scrolls. Each scroll can summon a 3-star to 5-star monster and will include the premium light and dark monsters as well as the usual fire, water, and wind. Select one 5-star and one 4-star monster of your choice. Monsters will come awakened, max level, and max skilled. And the Hall of Heroes is a special dungeon where players can earn summoning pieces for a specified 4-star monster. Each selected monster will have a respective Hall of Heroes dungeon open for 1 week. Players can also choose the order of their Hall of Heroes. Also for the 11th anniversary, there will be special event shops of all the sought-after premium rewards, and exclusive 11th anniversary items like the special Cowgirl Transmog, as well as the 11th anniversary Summon Henge skin, and an 11th anniversary profile background. To celebrate the anniversary, use the in-game code SW11YABDAY gift for 10 11-year scrolls, 1 legendary scroll, 20 mystical scrolls, and 5 million monastones. Whether you're enjoying a PvE in the Tower of Ascension or a PvP match at Siege Battle, Summoner Wars has something for all you RPG gamers out there. So give yourself an amazing head start or head on back to the game and enjoy the 11th anniversary of Summoner's War and see what all the hype is about. Thank you so much to Summoner's War for the sponsor, and back to the show. And then you might remember these bonus areas with the giant star-like wall that closes in on you. And if you take the camera out, you can see just how big that wall is, which is pretty big. But honestly, if you thought this was big, it doesn't even come close to comparing to the darkness in Kirby. Yeah, anytime you're in an enclosed area and you need a light source to make the room brighter, the actual layer for this darkness is way bigger than you would ever imagine in your entire life. Right here with this little red circle is where Kirby is, in conjunction with this giant black mass that is hiding outside the boundaries at any time you're playing Kirby's Return to Dreamland. And now let's talk about backgrounds, and we're going to be talking about this quite a bit because Kirby's Return to Dreamland has massive, very detailed backgrounds that you don't normally get a great look at. And so for the benefit of everybody watching this show, I'm just going to take the camera around and show you guys a little tour of each area that I thought was really interesting. Starting with this pyramid here and its interior. One of the fun things about this particular background is it does like a Jenga-like structure in the center, but also it has falling objects that get reused. You can see the moment that they disappear and they just sort of reappear at the top, only to be used to fall down again. And then for this underwater level, this is really nice too. It has a whole little Atlantis in the background, like an underwater city essentially. It's got floating seashells and all that sort of stuff. It's really cool, but the real main attraction is the town itself that glows a pale green. Taking the camera up close can show you all sorts of little windows that light up, and it's just really nice looking. For the snow area, this one's pretty complicated too. There's like some bridges and stuff like the different snow canyons. There's even hills that are very similar to Nightmare Before Christmas in my personal opinion. But what's also cool about this one is that it has a whole ice labyrinth of some kind. Taking the camera up close will show you the geography of this place, which is pretty well thought out. There seems to be steps that go up to different layers, as well as structures that start on a bottom floor and stop at a top floor, complete with connecting structures that also stop on the top floor. And then here's the thing that actually got me to make this episode. So I made a community post basically asking which episode would you like for me to cover next on the show, and I created a poll, but I also offer my audience a chance to leave a comment, and if that comment gets a lot of likes, it may influence my decision to cover it as a boundary break episode. Well, Kirby's Return to Dreamland was one of the top comments, and that person in particular said that they wanted to see the planet in the background because the game shoves it in the back there and you don't really get a good chance to look at it. And so by taking a look, we can see that there's all sorts of crop formations, as well as purple mountains and other hills and stuff. But what's particularly interesting is that if you take the camera over into the back, it has the shape of Pac-Man, seemingly having a giant mouth that the player never gets to see. Obviously, this is resource management, and so in order to keep the frame rate good, the developers just chose not to model that chunk to keep things extra smooth. But what's really funny is that with this background, you can see that there's all sorts of planets that are fully modeled, even from the back. Just found it a little bit interesting that there was no consistency here in terms of whether or not they decided to remove chunks from planets and stuff. And then for one of these map selection screens, you'll be really surprised to see how they handled the space in the background. Taking the camera out can show you that it's like a portion of a box almost, or a diorama setup. Space only has a back wall, a floor, and a ceiling. And then the detail for this stage, wow, look at this. The texture work combined with the modeling really makes this a super complicated background. One that really gives way to mechanical chaos that I think the developers were going for here. And then in one of the near final stages, we have this lava background. There's a lot of 2D textures at play here all the way in the back, but The centerpiece is fully modeled from front to back. There's also waterfalls of lava here, and they go really high up into the sky, well past any chance of the player being able to see just how long these waterfalls are. Anyways, with all that out of the way, here's the entire background in one shot, and I'm gonna take this moment to say the background artist for this game is incredible. They are super talented and made a lot of really incredible stuff here. It's often hard to believe that this was made on a Nintendo Wii. And for one of the final backgrounds I wanted to look at here, there's this cool white ripple effect that has a planet in the center. And if you take the camera up and over, you can see that it's like one giant circle with a bit of a popped collar almost to give that ridged effect that the player does get to see. Taking the camera inside of the planet though will show you that it's not really a sphere, but in fact, a flat texture with a particle effect that goes over it. Next up is a whole segment dedicated to hats, and the first one I want to look at is the needle hat because it's really, really cool. So first of all, we have Kirby with his needles out, and so when he's doing that, on the inside of his body is his hands, which aren't used during that animation, as well as a drill. That drill is when you use the up attack with the needle hat. But when you're not using any of the needles, all those individual needles that you saw a second ago get pulled into Kirby as well, giving you this giant mess of polygons. And then there's the fire hat. Now, when you take the camera inside of the fire hat, you can see that the jewel that's on Kirby's head is actually a spike that is drilled into his skull. Now, the reason behind this effect is that there's less polygons being used if they all come to a point like this. But what's really cool too is that you can see that there's a texture that goes beyond what is ever seen by the player, which is like a yellowy gold type of texture, similar to what is used to encase the jewel on the outside of the hat. The rim of the hat is actually modeled all the way through, and weirdly, the texture that is used for this all conjoins together and has a strange shape that's on the inside of Kirby's head. And then for the bomb hat, if you take the camera inside of Kirby's body, you can see the McDonald's logo. All right, I'm just kidding, of course. Looks very similar. It kind of makes a door shape like look, but once again, it's sharing the texture sheet with the rest of the hat, and it's just sort of overlapping in areas that the developers knew that the players would never see. And then when you acquire the Kirby-Bo boot, and please don't correct me, it was just a dumb joke, you can see that inside of the boot is Kirby's feet, and they overlap each other into 1 foot. And only a teeny tiny bit of Kirby's foot actually sticks outside the body here. Meanwhile, inside of cannons, Kirby's feet come together and it makes a crack. Now, this crack is below Kirby, it's not on his backside. So I'm not going to make that joke, but it's really interesting to see how Kirby's feet came together in a different way. They don't overlap here. Instead, they kind of clasp together. And then for the 1-up Kirby, if you take the camera past the 1-up symbol, you can see that Kirby's little 1-up character has no mouth. The developers were very confident that, yeah, you're not going to see Kirby's mouth with this particular item, and so they decided not to draw one at all. A little surprising to me. Very confident on their part, but hey, it works. And I wanted to show you this Kirby enemy up close, move past the goggles, and show you the fish's eyes. And here with the lava, you can see all the particle effects for the lava are stored inside of the lava rivers. Everything from the lava pillars as well as the lava dots, it's all here. Doesn't ever go away. Also wanted to show you that the culling in Kirby is really aggressive. Although it goes far enough for the game to display in widescreen if you wanted to, still it's not too far outside the boundaries that everything just sort of disappears until Kirby gets into view. Also, I can show you how ultra abilities look out of bounds, like with the ultra sword here. That green tint that happens when you activate the move actually has a dedicated square that you can see in full if you pan the camera out. And same thing with Monster Flame. If you use the Monster Flame here, you could see the red square as well as a dragon that starts really far outside the boundaries and ends even further outside the boundaries. Now, if we look at Ninja Dojo for the target minigame, we can see that the entire environment is actually rendered in 3D. Panning the camera out can show you the depth of this environment. And even the result screen is done in a 3D environment as well. Surprisingly, the floor is not your typical floor. It's angled in such a strange way. There's a point where you can see it only sort of like droops off of the wall and not actually be a separate floor from the wall. And then for the other mini game, we could see various things like the environment in full, but the mechs are really cool too. And I can show you where they are off screen before they actually show up. Like the Waddle Dee one over here looks normal enough, but the next one is a mess. The feet for the chef are really far detached from the actual model. It also looks like it was deliberately lodged inside of the ground, almost as if it was meant to be seen by the player, but sadly it never does. And here's the animation of that character actually coming into frame. It's really strange. Then we're gonna see what bosses look like out of bounds. You would think that Master Hand and Crazy Hand were making another appearance here, but sadly no. Instead, this is just where the hands for Mr. Duder comes in. The rest of Mr. Duder doesn't seem to be anywhere else, it's just his hands. And then for Fatty Puffer, you can see Fatty Puffer out of bounds, and Fatty Puffer's eyes are actually missing while it's out of bounds. It's not until the character is in frame that the eyes are culled in. And then I'll show you what the signs look like from the back side. Surprisingly, it's all modeled back here, but you can see the stick for one sign is not actually connected to the other. Instead, it sort of clips into each other as it moves up and down. And then lastly, for the credits, even this can be shown out of bounds, showing a massive, massive environment. One that is far more horizontally upward than it is vertically sideways. And that's it. That's all I got. This is the very first Boundary Break episode of Kirby. So if you like it, share it with all those Kirby fans. But if you're looking for more Kirby content on my channel, I do have a Region Break episode that I think is really fantastic. You should definitely check it out. And thanks again, guys, for suggesting this episode to me. I would have never thought to cover it, and I'm glad I did. It was a great game. I can see why so many people like it. And who knows, maybe I'll actually get into the Kirby series now going forward. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? All right. See you guys.